Morning, guys. Can somebody in the chat just give me a sound check? Let me know if I'm coming across loud and clear. I'm always a little tentative with this microphone that I use. Sometimes it gets a little clunky, pops out on me. So if somebody could just give me a thumbs up in the chat, let me know what's up. Sounds good. Thank you, Frankie F16 with the wrench. Shout out to Wales. Good morning, brother. Good afternoon. I apologize. So just getting a little morning cardio in here to warm up. Took a couple of days off. Had a little bit of a cold going or whatever, but we can't let that keep us down. So I do a little warm up now this morning, get a workout in a little later in the day. So last night, on probably the second or third, I usually wake up 4 times a night to pee. Being at the advanced age that I am, I'm sure a lot of you young guys do too. But on one of my trips to the bathroom, I came back and I couldn't fall right back asleep. So I sat there thinking, and I actually started jotting things down on my phone. Shout out to my friend Tim Effect, Florida Strong. Good morning, my brother. I hope you're doing well. Drive safe out there. So, it's the holidays now, guys, and everybody's supposedly in a festive mood. But a lot of times with a lot of people, it works the opposite way, right? Because you look at other people. That's the other thing, too. We measure ourselves against what other people are doing. And we say, especially on social media, people put these little snippets. They're out to dinner. They're at a party. They're at some type of function. And you look at these people in that split second and you say, oh my God, they're living such a happy life. How come I'm not as happy as him? How come I don't look as happy as that? But you don't know what's going on in people's lives. You don't know what's really going on. So you can't compare yourself to other people. And don't worry, because you're not in their shoes. But anyway, last night I'm thinking about some other things in life. How we kind of set ourselves back, or, I guess I titled it today, How to Make Yourself Miserable. And I guess in a sense, or unhappy, whatever word you want to use, whatever phrase you want to use. But I can remember back when I was a young cop, I was in law enforcement for 32 years. And I became a cop when I was 21. I got sworn in when I was 20. And then by the time I got out of the academy, I was 21. But anyway, I was working with guys at the time, guys that were breaking me in, new partners and all, that were probably, morning Adam, probably, in their 30s and 40s. And I remember one time I was working with one guy. I didn't even realize how old he was. It turned out he was 41. I thought he was older than that, to be honest with you. He came across as being older. But anyway, we got into a bit of a tussle with a guy that we were trying to arrest. More than a bit of a tussle. He gave us a fight for a while. But anyway, we wound up getting this guy handcuffed, and, it wasn't easy. And the ride back to headquarters with this guy, with this partner of mine who turned out to be 41, I don't know how many times he came out with the phrase, I'm too old for this shit. I'm too old for this shit. I can't be doing this shit. And, he was sounding like he was an 80-year-old man. And, in retrospect, like I said, looking back, he was 41. Granted, looked older. He was living a rough life, smoker, drinker, the whole thing. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that in a 5-minute, 6-minute car ride, this guy must have said, I'm too old for this shit 8 times. And I'm like, in retrospect, you talk about how you manifest things in your life. And if you consistently tell yourself that, if you're too old for anything, whether it's exercise or doing anything in life, and your excuse is going to be, I'm too old for that. I don't think there's any such thing. I don't think there's any such thing. And I'm sure my friend Tim Effect will concur on that. 69 years young. Um, so, yeah, that's one of the things that people, having this mindset, it's just like they talk about how you can manifest sickness and manifest so many things in your life if you keep saying it to yourself over and over and over. And to have that thought process, and a lot of it too is an excuse um, at the end of the day for just being lazy, for not wanting to do something, or, I'm too old for that, or, and you may say it jokingly sometimes, uh, but at some point it's going to come to fruition, and you really are going to age yourself, uh, in a lot of ways. So that's one of the ways I think people should get away from. But, it's a mental battle with a lot of people. Um, yeah, Adam, you certainly do over the years in a lot of different ways. In a lot of different ways. Yeah, right. That's right. I remember he did say that in that movie, right? Yeah, yeah, he did. And ironically too, what's his name? Was it Danny Glover that said that? I think in that movie he was 42. I think when he made that movie he was in his 40s, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, you know it, Tim. The mind is very powerful. So another thing, guys, is hoarding your possessions. Now, just follow me on this one. So I grew up. Um, my mother was a serious hoarder. Um, it wasn't hoarding in the sense that, like, she didn't throw away garbage. Thank God, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. But just possessions. She would buy things uh, and not use it under the guise of, well, I'm going to save it for someday. I might need it when, blah blah blah. You know, and we hold on to these things. Some people do get really carried away to the point you see these shows on TV where they won't even throw away a piece of garbage. I mean, that's like a real sickness. I mean, on any level, it is some type of mental issue. Um, like I said, I know my mother. It wasn't. Thank God, it wasn't where she wouldn't throw out garbage. But if I gave her gifts, anybody gave her any type of gift, I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it. And you become overwhelmed. And I think as I got older, um, I'm certainly not on that level, but there is a part of me that, I have things even here in my garage uh, that I haven't used in 10 years. And then when I clean out the garage, I don't really clean it out. I just move things around. And then I'll put the same shit back saying, well, I'm going to hold on to this just in case I need it. You know? And the odds of you ever really needing it are slim to none, if that. So it becomes like a constant stressor in your life, just looking around and seeing a junk. And I can tell you for a fact that slow but sure, as I get rid of things, um, it does relieve a lot of stress when you stop seeing this stuff around, because you don't need it. You don't need it. Nobody else needs it. A lot of times you save all this shit, you accumulate stuff for years and years, and then if and when you do decide to get rid of it, you try and unload it on other people. And I've done that. Hey, can you use this? Can you use that? And people are like, no. You know, I mean, some people will take stuff. One man's garbage is another man's treasure sometimes. But for the most part, I've had people offer me stuff, and the last thing I need to do is be taking shit out of other people's garages and put it in mine. So It behooves you to, even if you don't want to follow a minimalist lifestyle, I think it's better in a lot of ways to just pare back on things. You don't need as much as you think you need. Um, so yeah, you want to just try and minimize the clutter in your life, you know, in a lot of different ways. So another thing that I believe makes a lot of people miserable, myself included. I'll add a lot of points in my life, and I'm sure everybody uh, might concur with this one, is that when you live in the past and you look back at things you've done, and you fucked up big time, you did. Um, and the problem is you're never going to go back and change it. You're never going to go back and fix it. In your mind, you're thinking of ways to do it. You replay all the shit over in your mind and say, well, if I did it this way, it would have turned out like this. Or if I didn't do it that way, you come up with all these different scenarios. But the fact is, you've already lived it. It already happened. It's never going to change. The fact pattern might change in your head to try and ease the pain a little bit, or make it seem like you weren't that much of an asshole. But if you were, you were. Whatever you did, all you can do is just say, live and learn. I'm not going to do it again. I did it out of ignorance. I did it out of whatever. And I know I did a lot of things in my life out of ignorance. And that's not always an excuse, because of it. I don't care how ignorant you are, you still know right from wrong. So that's the only thing you can really do with the past, is just look at it, learn from it, and try and improve on your future self, things you do in the future. Say, I'm going to do my best not to do that again. I'm not going to do my best not to be that much of an asshole. It's something I strive to do every single day. Believe me. Very true, Adam. Gotta agree with you there, brother. Good point. Good morning, Mirko. Shout out to the Deutschland. Yeah, just a little warm up this morning, Mirko. Getting a little cardio in. Hope you're doing well, brother. So, another thing, guys, and this is one of these Stoic principles. If any of you guys are into any of the Stoic principles, like read any of the Stoics, or anything about Stoicism, one of the big principles they always talk about. I believe this was Epictetus. I don't want to try and make myself sound like a Stoic, philosopher, but I believe this was one of his biggest things was how you worry about things that are out of your control. You have absolutely no control over the outcome or anything about it, and you sit and worry about or try and figure out ways that you're going to change a situation that you have nothing to do with, or there's no way on God's green earth that you're ever going to change or have any effect on, and part of that too is trying to change other people. You don't have any. You think you do, to a degree, and you might temporarily change someone's behavior, but you're never going to change the person itself, and certainly not in an external situation. I mean, you look at what goes on today with politics, how people are willing to kill each other over politicians. And you can go cast your vote, mail your vote in, however you want to do it, hope that it counts, hope they're not cheating. But that's the end of it. You got to control your situation. And when you do that, if you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of, look at your four walls, whether you live in a tiny apartment or a big house, you you control what's going on there. If you take care of that and treat other people right, everything else will work out in the end, one way or the other. But to think that you're going to go out in the world and you're going to change everybody's thought patterns and behaviors and live a long, miserable life, very long, miserable life doing that. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate you, brother. Mirko, after that 1,000, I felt pretty good. I did that one Saturday morning. This past Saturday, we did the 1,000 push-ups with Rep Master, Game Bros Gusto, and my friend Aldo on Crusades of Motivation. We did a race to 1,000 push-ups on Saturday morning. I felt good that day, and believe it or not, Sunday and Monday, I had quite a bit of soreness from it. I feel good today, though. No, I don't feel it anymore. But for those couple of days, I definitely felt like I did something. So, yeah, it was good work. It was good work. So, this next one, guys, has been like a real big thing in my life. And I unfortunately for the vast majority of my life, I was around these people. And sometimes you can't help it. But I always talk about, and I've mentioned this many times on the channel, toxic people in your life. They will destroy your life. Like, not only just make you miserable, but being around toxic people will destroy you mentally, eventually physically, and just everything about you, just the way you think. And unfortunately, a lot of times these toxic people are actually your family, And I mean, at this stage of my life, if it's not a family member, believe me, I'm glad that I almost made it almost like a superpower. I don't give a shit who it is. If there's an ounce of toxicity or negativity or somebody rubs me the wrong way, I'll never be around them. I'll cut them in a second. I'll just cut them like a boat anchor, and that'll be the end of it. It's not that easy with family members, but you have to do everything in your power, family or not. If they're sucking you dry, they're sucking your energy, if they're making you miserable, if they're ruining your life, you got to minimize your time with them. Family member or not, that means nothing. Your well-being, your health, that's the number one thing. So even a relationship with a family member, because if somebody's that toxic, again, if they're doing it out of ignorance, if they don't realize they're that toxic, it goes back to you changing, not having control over other situations. You can't control somebody else's mind. If that's a toxic person and they're spreading that, you can't prevent them from doing it. So you got to get away from them. And if you can't do it 100%, you minimize the time as much as you can. It's not worth it. It's not worth your mental health, your physical health. It's not worth the time you expend on them. So see if I can get a sip here without spilling this, guy. So another one I was thinking about, guys, was procrastination. And I know you can all relate to this one. It's really, when you procrastinate, it's a way of what you're doing really is taking your time for granted. And that's a very, very flawed strategy. You can't take time for granted because you're never going to get it back. It's impossible. But unfortunately, it's something that you really come to grips with as you get older. You know, and again, with a lot of things in life, it's like everybody's going to have their epiphany at a different point in life. But at some point, you're going to realize, oh shit, I wasted all this time, and I'm never going to get it back. And believe me, that's going to make you very miserable. So spend your time wisely. We're all going to procrastinate. I always use one of the very many examples. I talk about even doing this YouTube channel. I wanted to do it for a long time, and I kept putting it off. The analysis paralysis, and let me wait till everything's perfect, and I don't know how to edit, and I don't know how am I going to film a video, and all this other shit. And it really is just wasted time. And they tell you, you want to do it, just start making videos. They'll suck. My videos still suck, but what are you going to do? It is what it is. You just turn on a camera and try and be yourself. But with anything in life, if it's something that you want to do, I'm not saying go off half-cocked on things and, but there comes a point where you just have to pull the trigger and just go. And just do it. And, talk about wasting time too, and taking time for granted. It goes back to my previous point about being like in a relationship with toxic people. It's just a waste of time. You're letting these people use up your clock. You can't do that. You have to take control of the clock, right? Like it's live every day like you're in that 2-minute warning, right? You got to use your time efficiently. Use that clock the right way. But most of us don't. And especially, and there's a lot of older people that still do it, but especially in your youth, because you don't see an end point. You really don't. I know I didn't. When I was 18, when I was all through my 20s, I never saw an end point. I thought I was bulletproof. I thought I could do whatever I want, live how I wanted, and there would never be any repercussions. See if I could start this over, guys. Okay, there we go. So yeah, guys, we got to use our time wisely, especially as you get older. Thank you, Mirko, brother. Mirko's always here with the positivity guide. Make sure you check him out. Young beast over in Germany, doing it the right way. There you go, Adam. Yeah, I know. It's when it's a family member, it's you could still love them, but you don't have to agree with them. And again, you have to realize that their way of life doesn't have to be your way of life. And that's what I've talked about this too before. Any of you guys that have been here for more than a minute have heard me talk about how you have to be the role model. You bring kids into this world, you're the role model, because they're gonna do, you take a young kid, a newborn up until about 7 years old, and that's where you form, their beliefs, they learn so much, they soak everything up like a sponge. And, if you're running around like an animal, if you're doing the wrong thing in life, kids are not stupid. I don't care how young they are. 2 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old, 9 years old. They know a hypocrite. They know a hypocrite when they see one. You're not even fooling children. You want to tell yourself all these bullshit stories to make yourself feel better, but you're not fooling the kids. And these kids are going to grow up to be what you are. So you look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, do I want my kids to be this? Is this what I want? When I leave this place, I want my kids to carry on what I'm doing. So I know, Adam, it's tough, man, but you got to set boundaries too. Family or not, no family. You got to set boundaries. And the fact that you see what they're doing and you don't agree with it, well, that's good, you know? And again, you got to let them know this isn't for me. You do you. And if you think what you're doing is the right thing, then do it. This is the way you've lived your life, But the problem is, the thing there too is, and I went through this, you have people in your life that go through life either, again, out of ignorance or just refusal to change or being lazy or whatever the story is. They make no plans for the fact that at some point, either they're going to go to bed and never wake up, or they're going to be incapacitated at some point. And guess what? Somebody's going to have to wipe their ass. Somebody's going to have to take care of them. Somebody's going to have to put a roof over their head, and it's always somebody, and it comes out of, a lot of it is like, I'm not talking about if somebody has, God forbid, a tragic accident or something like that. But I'm talking about somebody that lives their life like a complete buffoon, has no regard for their health in any way, shape, or form, whether it's physical or mental, has no forethought, doesn't look into the future, and then whatever happens, happens, but then somebody else is there, somebody else, whether it's a family member or they're looking for somebody else that has to come around and wipe their ass after they had their fun for 40, 50, 60 years of doing nothing to help themselves. Yeah, that's another one too, Adam. It's the inaction, right? The procrastination, just not doing it. Right, and you look back with that regret. It goes back to my, a couple of points earlier about living in the past, and you're looking back in the past and saying, wow, I should have done this then. I should have done this differently. I should have started it to begin with, and again, that's why I titled this Things That Are Going to Make You Miserable. What's up, Gio? Shout out to Jersey. How are you, brother? So another one, guys, that eventually is going to make you miserable. I think most people, some people just won't, again, because some people won't have that realization, or if you want to call it an epiphany. But I did this, throughout my life. Always felt that I had to be working. And I would literally, I was working 2 and 3 jobs, overtime. I never said no to overtime. You want to work an extra shift today, or, I mean, if I turned it down, I was sick to my stomach. You know what I mean? I just hated it. And that old adage that, the more you make, the more you spend, that rang true with me. I made a lot of mistakes in that regard. And, you got to realize, if you're putting your time and effort into that, into chasing that buck, you're taking your time and effort away from something else in your life. A lot of times it could be your kids. It could just be you taking care of yourself, and at the end of the day, instead of working 3 jobs and driving that brand new car, you could have worked 1 job and a couple of overtime shifts here and there and driven a used car. You know what I mean? Just pared back on your lifestyle a little bit, and it would have been so much better. I'm certainly not saying don't work hard, don't, get nice things for yourself, don't take good care of your family, but if it comes at the expense of time with them and taking care of yourself, which means if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else. So the people that rely on you are going to suffer because of that. So you have to balance, because it's going to be another regret. It's going to be another time where you're going to live in the past, because there'll come a time in your life where you're not working anymore, and you're going to look back and say, wow, I really didn't need to be working those 3 jobs, because I lost time here, I lost time there, I missed this soccer game, whatever, anything. You can go back and play it over and over, but it all piggybacks, we go back to the time thing. You took your time for granted. Well, I'll work now, and then when I'm done, when I retire, then everything will be good. Problem is, when you retire and you're doing all these things at the expense of your health, which is something I'll talk about next, a lot of times when you retire, that's when the shit starts hitting the fan, with your health, and you can't enjoy it. So even if you were a great saver and you accumulated all this money, and you say, all right, I got my 401k, and I got this, and I got that, and I got the big house, and you can't go wipe your own ass, what good is it? What good is it? So you have to be smart. Think ahead. So again, everything I mentioned earlier comes right into, which is always going to be my number one, how to make yourself miserable, is to neglect your health. And everything I mentioned earlier is going to cause you to neglect your health in some aspect, whether it's your emotional, mental, physical health. You're going to pay a price. And I've always said, maybe you work for 40 or 50 years and you have all the money you could ever need. If you don't have your health, none of it is going to mean anything. But on the flip side, you work for 40 or 50 years and you made some bad decisions and you're flat broke, but you're healthy as an ox, you got the world by the balls, whether you think so or not. So you got to take care of your health, guys. That's always going to be number one. Always going to be number one. Because if you have the mindset that you're the most important thing, your health is the most important, the most valuable commodity, and you take care of it that way, it's going to make it much easier. You'll think much more clearer when it comes to all the other things I was talking about. None of us every single one of us is going to be a work in progress until we take our last breath. That's for sure. Nobody's ever going to reach the finish line and go, okay, I made it. I'm perfect now. But keep yourself healthy, work on yourself and all these other aspects, and hopefully you won't be as miserable. Love, how often? Not very. How long? Not very. I don't do much cardio. I do, I mentioned earlier today, I just wanted to come down and get on the elliptical for a bit. I took a couple of days off. I don't know if it was a cold or whatever. I had something going on. So I just wanted to knock a little rust off this morning. But, my cardio usually consists of a few, 15, 20, 30-minute elliptical sessions here and there. Maybe some burpees once in a while. Again, when I do my body weight stuff, I'm a big fan of I'm not going to take no rest, but as little rest as possible. And I know for a fact that helps with your endurance and gives you a little bit of a cardio benefit. But I'm definitely not a runner. And my cardio sessions are probably sporadic at best. They do, Joe. Yep, that sums it up well. Less complications, more happiness. All right, guys. I think with that, we'll pack it in. I appreciate everybody listening to me rant this morning. Appreciate everybody being here. Everybody make sure you get some reps in today. Stay safe, stay healthy. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. Everybody have a good day, and I'm going to talk to you in the next one. Thanks, guys.